Hey there, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the 360 podcast series, sponsored by 360 Executive Suites. My name is Ed Masterson. I'm always honored to host these episodes. And before I introduce my amazing guest today, I want to give a little bit of shout out to Mr. Fred Arnold. Fred is the sponsor of the show, the 360 Executive Suites here in the Santa Clarita Valley. There's 4 state-of-the-art properties. If you need a business home away from home to do whatever it is you do as a professional, or if you just want some space to yourself, there are some amazing office spaces here in what I call the mothership of the 4 properties. This is the former Remax headquarters at 25101 The Old Road. Also in here, besides our great podcast studio, thanks to Fred for that as well, you can see that we're sponsored by 360 Executive Suites. In case we forget to say it, it's right up there on the wall. Also up here on the second floor of this building is the New Home Center. So if you are even thinking about getting information about a new home, buying a home, thinking about buying a home, the New Home Center up here on the second floor of this building can give you lots of amazing information and help you out. So Fred has a great team of people. Give him a call. We'll put up some contact information at the end of the episode. Come by, take a visit, take a tour. You'll really be impressed. The thing that's the best about these properties is the camaraderie and the vibe and the cool factor that they all have in terms of the people working in the building. One of those people is my guest today, Miss Helena Selkirk. Helena, thank you for coming on the show. How are you?
I'm doing good, Ed. Thank you for having me.
Of course. It's
cool.
Great. I know we've been talking about doing it for a while, so it's great to get you on here.
Thank you. Yes, I'm excited.
Good. So you are, and you can correct me if I leave anything out, because I'm going to just broad stroke it initially, and then we'll get into some details. You are a health and fitness professional. You are a world-class running coach. You also offer your clients, the people that you work with, a variety of products to help them on their fitness journeys. And just from talking to you a couple of times, I feel like you're one of those people, this is my impression, I might be wrong, you're one of those people that is able to make a living doing something that you absolutely love, and your clients benefit from that because they can just feel that kind of conviction and passion that you have. Would that be correct to say?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
100%.
Okay. So I'm going to let you guide us through on all the different things that you provide for your clients. And you've got these phenomenal testimonials. Whenever I look at, your clients, it's all these, great testimonials, which is always great to see. But let's learn a little bit about you. Where'd you grow up? Did you grow up here in California or somewhere else?
No, I'm from Cincinnati, Ohio.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what brought you out to California?
Life. I'm an adventurer. I'm an only child, so
am I.
I wanted. Oh, nice, yeah. Nice. Did you enjoy it?
I did. I didn't know any better. So when people said, "Oh, you're so spoiled," I'm like, "No, not really. My parents didn't let me be spoiled." So,
I had a mom and a grandma who raised me. Yeah. So I think I just had such an adventurous spirit. My mom she's a Christian. She's a minister through music. My grandmother raised me. She was from GE. She had a GE job. So I was raised on, cafeteria food and GE. And I went to private schools. I went to school with actually Ken Griffey Jr. We were in Finneytown as an elementary. And we were like hang out and have a good time. We thought we were boyfriend and girlfriend at one time. We're like in the 3rd grade or 4th grade, something like that, until I beat him in track and in our field day, and he was like, he didn't want to be my boyfriend no more. So
it's always tough when you get shown up by a girl in grade school or high school, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, that's a tough blow to the ego at that age. Right?
Exactly.
That's very cool. Yeah, my mom was a high school math teacher for like 40 years. She taught in the LA Unified School District, and so I went to Catholic school when I was in grade school and high school, and I'm a pretty good student except for math, which I hate. If it wasn't for my mom, I never could have graduated. She had to help me every night. And then I got lazy because once I knew she'd help me, then I just stopped trying to figure it out.
Right.
So
it's funny. I actually loved math coming up, but my mom and grandmother didn't know how to teach it to me when it got into the algebra and my ADD, and they're, don't have the patience. So I think I started to shy away from it versus getting, tackling it even more. But even until this very day, I still love numbers very much so. Absolutely.
That's great. I wish I had that same fascination for numbers. So you're talking about track and stuff like that. So you obviously were a runner yourself, competing. Is that what sort of drew you into the part of your world where you're
I've been a runner literally since I came out of my mom's belly, I believe. I used to have to, in Ohio, we had street lights, at the nighttime, summer nights, you have no shoes on, you're racing down the street. My mom was one of the adults, young adults, because she had me at a very young age. She had me like 18 years old.
Right.
So, I would race my friends, and I would always race her down the street, and she would beat us every time. And I remember the time I got I started. I think I turned 15 years old, and I finally was able to beat her, and I was like, yes. I am moving on. I'm a runner for sure now because she was super fast. So I've always running has been my life. It comes natural for me. It is it's something essential to who I am and my development as a human and as an adult as well.
When did you start taking all that experience you had and becoming a coach to coach people in running?
When haven't I? like, wow, the first time I think I had my coaching job I can even remember back in the time was in Chicago, and I played basketball for a really long time too. So I was one of those athletes who it was like basketball, track and field, cross country.
Okay.
So being a part of all that all the time even up through my adult years. So I've always coached, or either it was at a girls and boys club or it was basketball. So then when I came to California, track and field actually became a lot more prevalent in my life as far as coaching it. I kind of shied away from coaching for a long time because of just some lifetime disappointments when I was 2.5 seconds away from Olympic trial times, and I didn't allow, I allowed my immaturity to to kind of play a part in that, and so I missed out on some opportunities because of that. So I think I stirred away from being a track and field coach. It was more basketball for me, but California, for some reason, just me becoming a part of the school system as a basketball coach, and they knew I was a runner as well. It kind of just tied into each other, and that I started first at not Lincoln Park, I'm sorry, at in Panama, can't remember that school. It's in Panama City. I started there, and then I moved to Campbell Hall, and I stayed at Campbell Hall for 23 years.
Wow.
So
Campbell Hall, it's a big deal.
Yeah, that's where I really made my name known in the track and field industry when it comes to high school.
And I think, high school, I'm thinking back because I ran track too, not with any great skill at all. I played football and ran track, and I did the long jump, and I think the longest long jump I ever did was 16 feet. So I was a pretty pathetic long jumper, but
yeah, I'm 17.5.
Okay. Once again, I'm being shown up by a lady. No, it's fine. But the thing I loved about the coaches we had in high school, whether it was football, some of them were older, right? Because they'd been in the game for a long time, the coaches. But when there were some younger guys that had they weren't that far removed out of high school, it's more inspiring, I think, to students to see somebody a little older than them, but still young enough to be able to identify with them as their coach.
Absolutely.
Right?
As well as being able to compete with them. My kids could not. When I first started at Campbell Hall, those kids could not beat me in anything we did. And then they, so it made them more hungry. But of course I started with seventh graders, but still, I was still young too. I was in my 30s,
Sure.
So it was like being a part of that school like that, and then the growth of the kids, I grew too. Aging wise, so it became fun for when the high schoolers got to the point where they actually could start beating me, and they was like, "Yeah, we started beating." So then I turn around and I go get a bike, and they can't beat the bike, so I still win.
That's funny. No, that is cool. You're right, though. What a goal for the kids, right? Growing up with you and progressing from junior high school into high school, and having you as kind of a goal to try if we can beat coach someday. We know we've arrived, right?
Yes, absolutely.
That is so cool. What is it? I was going to ask you a quick question about Ohio. So I've never been to Ohio, but I am a big Dean Martin fan. He's from Steubenville, Ohio, I think. Is Steubenville anywhere near where you grew up in Ohio?
No, I don't think so because I haven't heard of it.
Okay, yeah, small town. Was there a flashpoint for you, Helena, that with all the experience we just talked about up to this point, was there a flashpoint in your life where you said fitness and this kind of DNA that I was born with to be involved and be active and stuff like that? Was there some point where you said, this is going to be my career? This is going to be, beyond the coaching also, because now you're doing more than coaching as well. So you've got multiple things you've been doing.
Right. Well, when you are, I am that. It's not a decision. It's not like I actually used to make decisions to go in the opposite direction. I wanted to go do other things. Like I'm gonna go work at UPS and do little trucks. I'm gonna go give me an office job, I'd lose my mind. Like I can't handle it. You know, I've went into the movie industry. I'm gonna go do some stunt stuff in the movies. My calling is coaching and training and being a wellness person, a human, somebody that just lives. I just have lived it my whole life. I can't tell you that I've, you know, ate cheeseburgers in my life too. Yes, I have, but for just the gist of what I truly corely believe in is just I played basketball, so I teach basketball. I ran, so I teach running. And that my abilities and I guess my talent continued to lead to the next, to the next, to the next, to the next. And when I came to California, which was a mecca of fitness, I never looked back. And my friends would always say, "How can you afford living in California?" And to me, it was just like because I get out and I work. You know, there was no just like you work in the sport. I work in my business, in my jobs. If I need 3 jobs to pay the rent, then I work 3 jobs to pay the rent. You know, but I was blessed to become a part of country clubs, and country clubs let me into opportunities to learn from my clients, and they learned from me. And I was there for 17 years as well. So between Campbell Hall and all of that experience and the growth of 23 years and my mentors there and my 17 years at Porter Valley Country Club, between the two of them, they really they sustained and solidified who I really was because I have had so many generations that I was a part of. So there was never a decision. It's just who I am.
Right. Yeah. And that seems really evident based on, like I said, testimonials that people put out there regarding their interactions with you. And just like I said, the first time I met you here at one of Fred's get-togethers was probably like going on 2 years ago, maybe.
Yeah, it was when we first started.
I could just tell that you sort of love and live what you do, right? Which is so cool to see people in that space where, because I'm going to say that's probably rare. Most of the population doesn't get to love what they do and really make a living at it. But it's really cool because it's inspiring to the people you're working with, right? Just like the students you were talking about and the people you got to meet at the country club and just people you meet everywhere. I'm sure the people in this building, every time they see you, they get a feel from you about the camaraderie I was talking about a second ago, which is, you know, you've got this aura about you that says, I am committed to what I do. I am what I do, like you just said, and people can trust you. And I wanted to ask you about that because when you're working with people for wellness and fitness and coaching, like you've talked about, it's a kind of a dumb question in a way, because I can just tell that you are a person with great character. You were obviously raised with amazing thoughts about working hard, accomplishing things, digging in, don't complain. You know,
Absolutely.
The world doesn't owe you anything,
Absolutely,
right?
100%.
So when people have that attitude about life, you're kind of an inspiration to the rest of the world, especially to people sometimes that don't have any inkling about operating their life that way, right? To be able to see somebody and say, wow, she's really like kind of digging in and making it happen, whether it's 3 jobs or having to work 12 hours a day or 15 hours a day or whatever it is. That's an inspiration in and of itself, I think. And I'm generalizing, maybe I'm wrong, maybe more so in today's world even than past generations, maybe.
It's a little, I think because of my age, which I'm not afraid to say, I'm 56. So I think that I have experience from the lifestyle of Ohio, being raised on, you know, on farm animals that live next door to you, you know, versus, you know, going to Chicago and you have foods that are brown in the stores and you shouldn't consume them. And then coming to California and you have sushi and elegant foods and, you know, so that's just the food in itself shows you the changes that I have experienced, which I'm sure other people probably have as well. But for me, those changes also happen in everything that I've done and been a part of. So as the question being, I just feel like it's, I don't know how to bring that around. I just feel like it's all meant to be, and when people are a part of my life, I try to not be something that they think I am. I try to just let them see exactly who I am.
Right.
You know, and if we're being frank, you know, that means, you know, hey, does she have a drink? Yep, I had some tequila last night. Boy, I'm feeling hungover today. I'm not a hypocrite. You know, I'm not one that's going to judge you. You come and you talk to me, I'm going to hear you, not tell you what's good for you. I'm going to hear you so that I can help you change your mindset about it. I guide you in that way.
Yeah, so I was going to ask you about that. That is exactly what I was thinking. That when people come to you, and probably the reason they take to you so much emotionally and respect for all your knowledge and experience you have, is because I think that's exactly right. I think like for myself, just over the years, health stuff and like you're talking about being better sometimes than others in terms of food and exercise and whatever it is. And I used to be a runner as well. I was running like 6.5, 7 miles every day forever and ever and ever. There's when people come to somebody though, if you're not in that mode of already being locked into that kind of activity, and you come to somebody who you know and respect, who is a pro in that field, you sort of can be intimidating a little bit when you're talking to somebody that has the experience you have. And so I think that kind of goes to what I was asking about the trust factor. When people sit down with you, I'm guessing just based on what you said, you want to put them at ease to where, like you said, not here to judge you. Tell me what's going on with you, and let's talk about it and work through it together, because it's your journey.
Absolutely.
I'm the one that wants to help you, but you still have to do the journey because it's your journey, right? That's all about the coaching stuff.
Yes, I always say, I'm not going to write up a program. Because I've been in this industry for so long. We used to write programs for people. You can't write a programs for someone because they're evolving every day. Life changes every day. You got to give them some blanket information for them to start to build on it via their experiences that they're having every day.
Right.
So it's just what works for you doesn't work for someone else, and you guys can be the same size, the same height, the same everything, but still doesn't work for you the same.
Right.
So that's the beautiful thing that I love about the wellness part of what I've matured. I think I've matured from just being I don't want to say just, from being a high school track and field cross country coach, which I've done some college, basketball, some college as well, coaching, to now my experiences I feel has molded me to be direction of wellness and wholeness, so that people, but real, let's talk about how many glasses of wine we have at night, and let's see how can we cut them down. Did I say cut them all out? No.
Right.
But can we cut a few down? And if that's the case, why are we having that many wine, that much? Let's talk about what's really going on down inside. It's the reason why you're here to see me, because something's going on image-wise, mentally, emotionally.
Right.
How many tears I see a day when people come in my door, especially, because a lot of people come to me that don't know me. They see my ad on Facebook or Instagram. So they're strangers that walk into my door, and my welcoming, my open ear, and my love for what I do and the love for the human, I absorb everything they have to say. And in turn, I get a lot of emotions that come out. I hear the stories every day, and they make me tear up myself sometimes, but I love that I have the experience enough to be able to give them some hope and give them some encouragement.
Yeah. So that, I work as a life coach now, right? Which is a new career for me in the last 3 years. For years, I worked in the film business. I used to be a VIP tour guide for Universal Studios, and I was a production coordinator on TV shows for 20 years. And then a friend of mine and I did some screenwriting. So I've had like 14 jobs in my life, right? Which is weird for somebody my age, because I'm 66. So it's weird for someone from my generation to have had 14 jobs in their life. But working as a life coach now, exactly what you said. Like when I start working with people, I just know what it's like to have insecurities or things that you're trying to better yourself with, or whatever the mind, whatever you're telling yourself in your mind. I know what that's like. So, and I know what it's like to talk to somebody who doesn't hear you and somebody who does, right?
Absolutely.
And there's a huge difference.
There is a huge difference.
Right? So I just wanting to be the right kind of person for people. I feel like I'm the same way. And again, I'm not able to give them the same level of information as you are, because you've got so much experience in a lot of really specific things that help people for sure. But I think sometimes it's really helpful for human beings to have somebody who's not necessarily a loved one or a family member or somebody who's really tied into their life emotionally. It's good to have them have like a stranger to say things out loud to that maybe they don't feel comfortable saying to anybody else.
Absolutely.
You know?
I hear absolutely. I mean, literally from the, when you come into my studio, you have to go through a 3D scan, and it's called a Steiku 3D scanner. So you go down to bra and panty or underwear. Okay, I'm not in there. I'm in there prior to, so I can show you how to stand on the machine.
Right.
But as they continue to come to see me, every 15 days, they get more and more used to me being around. And they end up saying, I can't believe I'm taking my clothes off in front of a stranger that I don't know, but I feel that comfortable with you, you know? And it's like, because I don't see them. I don't see the person. I see the human that needs me.
Right.
And that's what it's about. And that's natural for me. That comes, I could care less what's there as skin. I'm there to help you further than that skin.
Yeah, and it's hard, like just using myself again as an example, that my wife loves to get a massage, right? When we go somewhere, I never get a massage. I refuse to. She's like, why don't I'm like, nah, I just like too self-conscious about, like having somebody
rubbing you up.
Yeah, right. And she's like, she says, they're probably not giving it a second thought. They see bodies all the time. So I'm sure yours is probably a little bit better, or a little bit worse, or a lot worse than other people's. I think people in that business, they don't care probably, but it's still an insecurity on my part, right? Mm-hmm. So to have somebody like you, or some of the people I've dealt with in my life that they make you feel okay about not feeling okay enough to have the conversations to make some progress in the direction you want to go.
That's the only way we're going to get. Yeah, it's a teamwork. We just only. I always say, let's go, close off. Let's get this party started. We don't have time to be thinking about it. You thought about it all a long time when you made the appointment. You came in, so let's just get busy. I gotta help you, and if you don't do that, I can't help you because I can't see what's going on with your system. I can't get a scan on you.
Sure.
So and they're like, all right, fine, and I walk out and they do it, and boom, it's done, and then the process continues on. But when they're on the bed and they're getting their slimming or whatever, we get to start talking about what's going on.
Yep.
What's really happening in your system. What are you eating? What kind of diet? What kind of nutritional intake? I don't like to say diet. I like to say, what kind of nutritional intake do you take? Do you have? Because when you say diet, it can mean an array of things. I want to know nutritionally, what are you eating? Or non-nutritionally. I still need to know. And I hear, oh, I don't know. And I'm like, just tell me. I don't care. I just know I need some ground.
Right. That's the other thing, right? Is like people, feeling self-conscious, so they fib a little bit. And then, of course, that's not helpful at all, because you're trying to actually get the real information that you need, right?
But then they come back and they got to stand on that Steiku again. Then then I know what's happening, because the numbers change.
Right.
And the numbers either change for the good or for the bad. And then I'm like, okay. So since we last talked 15 days ago.
So, Helena, how is it then? So you're already kind of proving my theory about how you build trust with these clients, because first of all, credit to them for coming to you in the first place, right?
Absolutely. Kudos.
And then credit to you for making that space and that experience for them somewhere where they can gradually get comfortable enough and have the trust to start really giving you the information that allows you to really dig into what you guys are trying to accomplish together. So what is the first step for people if they did want to come to you? Is it, just walk me through that. Is there sort of a typical client or patient you work with, or everybody's situation is different, right?
Anybody and everybody.
Okay.
Because male and female, everyone has fat tissue. Everyone has some discomfort that they don't like about it. And of those who have cellulite, we help with that too. We help with the cellulite and the lines on the face, and smooth out the face a little bit more. Take a couple years off the face. We can do that. All these are cold temperature approaches. It's non-invasive. It's easy and it works. Everything that the machine is about, it works as far as the Cryoskin. They do the Steiku when they come in, of course, for the 3Ds, and that helps me know what I'm dealing with. And I address the tissue where they want to be addressed. If it's their stomach, we use the pucks on their stomach. They lay there in 45 minutes, relax, and enjoy some music or talk with me. And I give them some of their own personal time, because I want, a lot of times women come in and they're mothers. And what mother gets 45 minutes in the middle of the day to do nothing but freeze some fat tissue, and then it liquefies, and they have to go pee, poo, and sweat it out. Like it's like a win-win for them because they get a little nap, they get some fat tissue decretion, and they get to feel better when they get off that bed and they get out into those kids, you know.
So that's part of it too then. So just so we make sure everybody understands, there's the nutrition discussions, and then there are these applications. And is Cryoskin like a term that covers all the cold treatments?
Yes.
Is that right? Okay.
Yes.
So like you were explaining, there's face, body.
And the facials are done via a wand, looks like an ultrasound. It looks like an ultrasound wand. Is like that. And the fat reduction is placed with these pucks in a particular area on your body that you want.
Okay.
And you set the program. It gets cold. I come back afterwards. I give you a little lymphatic massage. You have to go to the bathroom because it starts to flush immediately.
Okay.
And I put you, if it's the first time, I put you back on the Staiku so that you can see what changes had happened in that 45 minutes. Some people actually expand a little bit in tissue because the body feels it liquefies, so it has time to kind of go down like a balloon. Some people their lymphatic system works immediately and starts to just flush immediately. You can see the numbers change. And then I see them again in 15 days, and we do a Staiku in the beginning. I can see what they've been doing in the last 15 days and then give them further advice or encouragement to either keep going the direction that you're going because your numbers are going down, which is really great, or hold up, let's talk about what you aren't doing so we can get those numbers to go down. And then the process goes on for 7 sessions. For their first go around is 7 sessions, and it's about 2.5 months. And I have people who lose fat tissue all the way up the about 8 pounds of fat in 2.5 months. And that's a fat tissue, fatty acids. You can see the numbers change.
Wow. So this device you're talking about called the Staiku, it's a body scanner. Is that what
it's a 3D body scanner. It rotates you 360.
Okay.
And it gives you it gives you an image of your body. It gives you all your visceral fat, muscle tissue, water, bone, density, all of that. It shows you inches. It shows you gallons of water, how much inflammation you have in your system.
Really?
It shows you everything about you all in numbers. And the accuracy rates are absolutely phenomenal. It's like 99999.9% accuracy. Just absolutely amazing.
So if I've had 2 knee replacements on my left knee, kind of a result from running forever, like 30, 40 years. But these replacements haven't taken on. My knee's still swollen. I'm going to PT 3 times a week. That Staiku would show the swelling in the tissue.
It would show the swelling in the tissue. And my Cryoskin wand has a therapeutic wand to it where I can change the settings and I can ice and heat your knee deep in the tissue. So it treats injuries as well.
Wow. So do people realize when they first come to you, like the gamut of stuff you're able to offer them?
Because the website was prepared for me because I was new to the industry of Cryoskin, but my expertise in fitness was not new. So it was an emphasis. The website is the emphasis of Cryoskin and what machine I have. So when they come in, a lot of people say, I didn't know you had all of this. Why isn't all of this on, why don't you have this online better? So I think we're working on trying to change a little bit of the website so it kind of gives more complement to what I have to offer in here.
Right, because you've got the nutrition, you've got the fitness, the overall wellness, which is nutrition, fitness. You can advise people on various.
It's called complete physique.
Complete physique,
yes,
right?
It is complete. You have even when we have issues, non-invasive other issues like sleep patch or energy patch from LifeWave. I have those little LifeWave patches, and people are going crazy about LifeWave right now. They've been wearing the N95 or the X49 or X39 or something like that because it's like a wellness cellular regenerating patch. It's nanotechnology. I've known about LifeWave for 20 years, and it's amazing to see how everyone now is, jumped on the wagon of LifeWave, and they're excellent patches. So I'm proud to actually be part of LifeWave.
Tell us about what it is, LifeWave. I've never heard of it.
LifeWave it's a small patch that goes on meridians of the body for like acupuncture spots. Yeah. If a sleep patch can go right here and you go to sleep deeper, it takes you into a really deep, because it's accurate. It's reading the meridians of the body and it's signified by light. So your body starts to read it. And so the areas that it is on is areas that of concern. Like if it can't sleep, it goes here, it's better, or go on the side. So there are little acupuncture parts that you put certain patches on. So sleep that way, or energy goes. There are 2 patches that go right here for energy, or on your legs for energy. They have a glutathione, which is really good for anti-aging. That goes in your belly, underneath your belly button. So these sites are, again, meridian acupuncture sites that address some of these issues that people have. Wow. So that's just another wellness approach to not having to take a pill, because there for anti-inflammatories, there's an Aeon patch is for anti-inflammatory. It does what it says it does. It does take the inflammation down. And what's so amazing about these patches is the reaction to the patches normally start within like 10, 15 minutes. You start to feel better. If you have that tennis elbow, because I used to work at the country clubs, people would always come up and have that tennis elbow. Right. And I take their band off their arm and I would put a patch there. In like 15 minutes, they were like, wow, my arm is feeling better. And like it blocks, it has a little bit of that, I guess it blocks that signal that goes through, and it allows that inflammation to start to decrease. So they're really amazing.
Wow. And those are, so you offer those also, right?
Absolutely.
And is that something that people buy like 20 patches and they last them 2-3 months, or what?
It depends on what they want. You know, hey, Helena, I got some pain. I got some inflammation. So they'll buy like 5 patches for like $25 or something like that. I don't know, something like that. Yeah. And then they just use them every, you know, you can use a patch for like 72 hours. It says 12, but you can actually use them about 72 hours. And you just let them, because they have residual effects. So the pain that you have or the inflammation that you have will come down, and you can just, the patch will continue to assist that area to heal.
I need to come see you for those things for my knee.
Yeah,
it's just
you would love him.
Swollen all the time. It never goes down.
You know, I'm gonna make a little correction. I can't help myself. You said you've been running for how long?
No, not for a while now. I started.
No, before.
Oh yeah. Started when I was in college. So I was 19 years old, and I ran every day without missing a day till I was like 45.
And so you say your knees are bad from that, huh?
Not my right knee, only my left knee. My left leg has taken all the brunt of injuries over the years. Like got hit by a car one time, broke that leg when I was out running one day.
Oh wow.
Yeah, my right leg's in pretty good shape. It's my left leg that's just the one that's all screwed up.
You know, there's a lot of things that we don't do when we don't know the information or the knowledge to do them, like running drills that would have helped you understand how to pick your body up. A lot of times people run down in the ground. Their legs and the gravity in their knees, everything drops down into the ground. You're supposed to be running on top, up. And a lot of times I actually teach people who say, oh, I can't run anymore, or I don't know how to run, or I'm afraid to run, or because they don't actually understand how to lay a foundation to running. They just go out and start running.
Right.
You know, it's like 3 times your body weight that hits the ground on each side of your body when you hit the ground. So bones that are not used to that kind of impact is a good bone density over time. It improves bone density significantly. So it's contrary to people saying that running hurt my knees, I can't run anymore, when actually running does the pounding actually strengthens the bone. It increases your bone density.
Wow. See that right there? Is worth you being like a multi-million-dollar expert on helping people out. I've never heard anybody ever mention that.
It's true.
And it makes total sense. And you would know, obviously, because you know your stuff when it comes to running. But that, what you just said about bone density being increased through, contact.
It's because of the pounding. Your muscles has to stand up to that.
Wow.
So it's normally, but what happens is that they're not taught how to put the foundation of the drills together to sustain your stand-up position when you are running, which makes everything else run, not everything else in the body work, not just the legs, which now becomes the knees.
Are you constantly in demand for people? Seriously, though, with all this knowledge you have, are you constantly just phone calls from like schools that want you to come coach their teams and all that kind of stuff?
I was at Campbell Hall. I just left Campbell Hall almost 2 years ago.
23 years.
Almost. And I was there 23 years.
How'd they let you go? They must have been sad to see you go,
It didn't,
right?
Actually, it was politics. So it was me who was sad. It was me who was sad. Unfortunately, it was politics. And then, sometimes being caught up, I'm not one to say or to assume, but, I'm the only black woman on that grounds that was there for 23 years. I am the head for the track and field cross country coach,
right.
The head. And I had people who worked under me. I had boys going to college. First time that any coach in that track school has ever turned out kids into college. And I have another one who was almost into the Olympics, and he got hurt in the Pan Am Games, I'm sorry. And he comes back and he coaches the kids in honor, I would say in honor of me, because I'm very honored that he's back there coaching the team that he came from, that he went to college for because I was his coach. I had an amazing opportunity at Campbell Hall. It was stolen from me, and it's a really hurtful thing. But what's amazing is when the day that happened on a Thursday, on Saturday I was introduced to Cryoskin. And Cryoskin took me, if you had told me that I would have been doing Cryoskin next to my business of training, I'd looked at you like you had like 4 eyeballs. Because it wouldn't have made any sense. I'm a trainer, not a esthetician. I don't deal with fatty fat. I make you get down and give me 20, I make you do better eating habits, this is what I'm used to. That's what I know.
Right.
But again, if you don't move with the hands of time, you're going to get left behind. And Cryoskin just literally landed. It just blew down the door and landed in my lap. And I was very distraught at the time. On a Saturday, I left my school on a Thursday, and it came to my life on a Saturday. It was like I wasn't in the mood. I wasn't wanting to do anything but cry over what just happened.
Of course, yeah.
And I was. And Cryoskin, my guy and I found out the power of it. It was an experience that we had. A woman just asked us to come that we were in this Restore building, just looking at some of their stuff. And I'm about to leave, and she taps me on my shoulder, and she said, "Did I hear you have a studio?" I said, "Yeah." She goes, "Where at?" It's in Stevenson's Ranch. And she goes, "Come here, let me show you something real quick." And I'm like, all right, well, we just saw everything in here. Where's she taking me? She takes me in this esthetician room and shows me this little machine on the table. And she says, "Do you know what this is?" And I go, "No." She goes, "This is called Cryoskin." I said, "Okay, and I'm not an esthetician." She goes, "No, it's a fat reduction machine." And I literally laughed. I looked at her like, "Lady, do you really know who I am?" I'm really? Okay. I was like, "Okay, well, thank you." And she was like, "No, let me show you how it goes." And she was really persistent, which really kind of cracked. I was like, "What the heck is going on?" Mm-hmm. And so she basically said, "It's called apoptosis." And I said, "Who?" And she says, "Apoptosis." And I go, "What is that?" And she goes, "That's when fat cold temperature is manipulated. Fat tissue is manipulated under cold temperatures. And then heat comes back and liquefies it, and you pee, poo, and sweat it out." And I'm like, "What? I've never heard of anything like this." And of course, I'm like, at the time, like 54 years old and 56. And I'm like, I know everything about fitness. I'm not a believer. I know what Botox is even. I don't even, And she's like, "No, it works." And so I said, well, I looked at her and I go, "Well, if you could," she says, "No, I'll show you how." And I looked at my guy, and he's a fireman. He had a little belly on him. I said, "Well, you could take something off his belly. I believe you." She takes me through the process. At the end of the process, she even says, "Here, let me show you how to do it." And like, who does this, right? And I'm like, "What?" So she shows me how to do it, and I'm like, "Okay." And we took a measurement before and after, and in like 15 minutes, we took a half an inch of tissue off of his body, and he just was there laying there, and I was like, "What?" So it kind of blew my mind and blew his mind at the same time. So our brains were going crazy when we left, nevertheless. And apparently he had this research brain of his, and he researched the machine all the way back to Europe and found out that there was a higher version of it and what it actually was, the powers of it. He asked me what I thought about it. I said, "Well, I don't have the money to invest in a machine like that." And within 4 weeks of that statement, it was at my door here, and I opened up Complete Physique Cryoskin, because it was just Complete Physique.
Right.
And I got to talk to the guys who were owners of it, and they approved me partnering up with their name on my business. And 2 years later, here I stand, and I'm all over the internet.
That's an amazing story. I mean, and the fun part about it is like your initial skepticism and kind of don't sell me on something that you're not going to tell me about something in fitness that I don't already know about. I love the fact that you were then thought about it enough to say, well, that did work. Maybe I should give it some thought.
Absolutely. I think my guy Robbie was more apt to doing it than I was. Because, again, remember, I just was going through a heartbreak.
Sure,
even, but he was so persistent on doing the research. And he saw the power of it. And truthfully, it has been amazing. So you ask me, does people knock down my door for that? I don't have a chance for anybody to knock down my door for anything because Cryoskin has been taken off. It's like, wow. It's like, that's where they're knocking down the doors for Cryoskin.
That's great. I mean, and I saw your website. You're right. There's good information on there about that. And in today's world, I think it's obviously very topical and present in people's minds. And for something that has that kind of like immediate measurable results.
Absolutely.
That's got to be fantastic.
It is. And it's a slow process, but it's a safe process. Mm-hmm. I'm not here to speak against anything else, but I can tell you that you will get fat reduction. You will get knowledge. You will have an opportunity to see the power of what the body can do with a little bit of help. And it doesn't put your health at risk.
Yeah.
There's no side effects like that. We learned in the beginning that if you did them too fast, fatty liver can be part of that. That's why the protocol is 15 to 20 days. If you go beyond that, some people's lymphatic system can't flush fast enough.
Right.
So we learned that. So you pay attention to the flushing.
I think we got to get you back on for another episode, Helena, if you'd be willing to do that.
Of course.
Would you?
Of course.
I know you're right down the hall there. So you're keeping an eye on everybody, and they know there's a pro right down the hall they can come talk to and get information.
Yeah, you know how when you say you have a professional at home and everybody wants an autograph, but none of your kids do or something like that, they don't want. It's like that here. Nobody wants to deal with me and me being a fitness trainer here, so maybe one or two people. Everybody else, they run you up the way. They come in the building, they got McDonald's and Burger Kings and shit. They're like, hi, when they see me.
That's funny. But no, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. You're like such a great guest, you're such a natural, and you know everything about everything you know. So that's a good thing, right?
You know about everything you know.
So it's been great to have you on here. Thank you.
Thanks
and I know
for having me, Ed.
Fred thinks the world of you too. He's always talking you up and loving on you because you're just a great person. So thank you for joining us today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
And we'll definitely have you back. And for those of you that are watching, if you do us a favor, if you're watching this thing on YouTube or some visual element, hit the like button so we know you liked it. Hit it even if you didn't like our interview, just because we want you to hit the like button. And check in with Fred Arnold and his 4 properties here in town and check them out. See if you can find a space for yourself to have a business home away from home, as we like to say. So thank you to all of you for tuning in. So Helena, thank you again for being with us today.
Absolutely.
And we'll see you guys on the next episode. Thank you.